Welcome back to High Minded with McCarter, featuring my co-host, SK.
Hey, everyone.
I'm super happy about this episode. We brought on Chelsey Joseph, an amazing woman and pioneer in the cannabis industry. She is the owner of The Republic, which is a dispensary and a fully vertical operation here in Boulder, Colorado, right on the outskirts. So we talked to her about so many amazing things.
Yeah, she also runs White Label. So
that's right.
Doing
that's the
a lot
other
of
company. Thank you.
11 brands that they run. So
right.
She's doing a lot, promoting a lot of women-run businesses, doing some big stuff. So
yeah, I love that she took like the term White Label and then made it into a brand.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
Her, like, the name is, well, it's like all caps. So I think it's WHT BLB. Wait, LBL.
LBL.
Oh my gosh.
WHT LBL.
I have a hard time with acronyms, which I feel like it kind of is an acronym.
Consonants.
Yes. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. No, but
I feel like we're going back to school. I'm back in English class right now.
Back to school. The chalkboard.
But no, she did school us. She actually did. Unintentional fun.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Chelsey Joseph
amazing.
Laid down the wisdom for
She's been in the industry in Colorado since
2008, I think.
2008. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, she started.
She's epic.
Yeah, totally in the underground.
Consulting.
Yeah, she was doing consulting, but she started in her basement growing.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
we get a peek into the original Colorado underground market, which is so intriguing.
Free bud tenders, the caregivers.
Yes, I don't even know much about the caregiver kind of legacy.
Yeah, I feel like we're so far from that now with legalization. It's, you walk into a store, it's a retail experience. It's
basically like a Mac store.
Yeah.
Like an Apple store.
Apple store.
Mac.
Totally. I mean, when you go to places like MedMen in LA, it's like really that experience. It's
And I will tell you, The Republic, Chelsea's dispensary is really nice. It's really cute. They have their own, I think it's like 1 or 2 acre outdoor farm they just harvested. And then, they partner up with 11 different brands to produce the THC in cannabis and even hemp or CBD that's found in all of the 11 products and brands that they partner with. It's so interesting.
Yeah, and at that facility, they are going to have the lab where they're processing their own concentrates and everything to sell it. That's such a cool compound kind of thing right there on the border of...
they have a compound.
A compound, right on the border of those cities, Boulder and Lafayette, I believe.
Because they have a grow, the extraction lab, they're bringing the CO2 and the butane extraction lab, which we touch on extraction at the end kind of the discussion.
Yeah, we got schooled for sure on how and why people choose to use butane or CO2 versus rosin, which...
we love the solventless.
Totally solventless, team solventless. Way, so
we just took some solventless dabs of Viola, some papaya jam live rosin.
Oh my gosh, yummy.
It was so good.
It was a smoothie.
Yeah, and we're trying to manifest getting Al Harrington on the podcast. So if you know him, please connect. But thank you all so much for listening to another episode of High Minded. But please enjoy this episode with Chelsey Joseph.
Brought to you by Hemperbox, hemper.co.
And stay high. Welcome back to High Minded with McCarter, the podcast where we discuss cannabis, plant medicine, all sorts of things with my co-host SK.
Hey guys, what up?
And today I am super excited to have Chelsey Joseph on the podcast. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
We're so excited you can make it.
So glad to be here.
And I just saw you in Vegas. We had some fun at the Sensi Zodiac party.
Yes, I came super late, but it was really good to see you. And over the last few months, I've seen you a few times here and there, and I've been meaning to like connect with you more. So I'm so glad that we're finally able to do this. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you own the dispensary, the Shop the Republic. Is it the Republic? I know Shop the Republic because that's the Instagram.
Right.
So follow them on Instagram at Shop the Republic.
Thank you.
But it's just called The Republic off Baseline.
That's right. Yep. Yes. It's the Republic, and we're a 24-acre property in Boulder County. So on one side is City of Boulder, one side is City of Lafayette. We're kind of in this really unique sliver of
I didn't know
county
that.
land. Yeah, it's kind of the reason we can exist is the outdoor and the co-located dispensary and manufacturing and stuff would never fly in the city. So we're the outdoor grow is just a little shy of an acre, that fence part where we're able to outdoor. And then the building, it's about 15,000 square feet. We have a manufacturing facility, an indoor grow, and then the dispensary, of course. So
wow,
yeah.
You're such a badass boss.
Thank you.
I'm just like, congratulations for doing this. And you're someone I look up to literally.
Thank you.
All the time. And I love to see, other females out there in the cannabis space who have licenses and are like doing like big deals. Like you work with Wana Brands. You work with Jane West. I kind of want to start from the beginning. If you can tell a little bit of your story of how you got into the industry and then taking us up to now, and then we can go from whatever.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
So I'm 31.
Oh my gosh. A spring chicken.
Oh, thank you. I know. It's I've been doing this my whole career, basically. I'm trying to do the math real quick in my head. I'm like, 2008 is when I got into it. So it feels like I've been doing this.
You're an OG.
Yeah, for a while. But like at the same time, it also feels like the first year. It's like constantly new. And like, of course, the pandemic like changed everything too. So I'm like, it's a whole new thing now.
Oh my gosh.
So I got into it then. It was a medical market, really strict. Cancer, HIV.
And you're from Colorado, right?
Correct. Yep. So born and raised here. My dad was really sick and we were kind of looking for like anything. And I think at that time there was a lot of people who came to the industry sort of like out of dysfunction. Like there was a lot of people who moved to Colorado because they had a family member who was sick, or, it wasn't like a lucrative business. It was kind of like a very scary kind of place to be. So let's see, we started before dispensaries were a thing. We were growing in our basements and our garages and meeting people in parking lots and at their homes and sometimes like at their places of work. I had a patient who ran a car dealership in Boulder, and I would like go to the dealership and like meet him in the parking lot, and like he needed medical marijuana for, specific ailments that the state allowed at the time. But there was, of course, like chronic pain, which was the catch-all. So like if you had a back surgery or like broken bone or something like that, you could usually find a way in. And so it just kind of took off. When the rules passed in Colorado, it was, I want to say 2011, and that allowed for retail storefronts and like commercial grows. Before that, and it's similar in a lot of the West Coast states like Oregon and California and Washington, they had this like caregiver collective where...
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, for like each patient, you got 6 plants.
Yes.
And that's how you like grew these inventories. And so anyway, in 2011, we had one dispensary and we grew really quickly. We went from 1 to 7 in about 18 months. And my boss at the time, her name's Jill, she ended up selling that business in 2013. And I started to get into consulting, so license applications and like operational support, kind of like a global tour of consulting. And decided I did not like consulting. Came back in 2017 and started White Label.
Okay. So wait, where were you when you were traveling all over?
Traveling a lot. Okay. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Chicago, a lot of time in Las Vegas.
Wow.
Actually, probably did the most work in Las Vegas. I probably had like 20 license application clients when the first round of medical licenses were issued. Yeah, so a lot of the licenses that exist today, I had a hand in filing in the very beginning.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
Chicago.
crazy.
We worked in Puerto Rico and Hawaii and all over. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you were in it from the beginning, from the medical program, and you saw firsthand at how cannabis could help these medical patients, including your father, right?
Yep, exactly. And he was, it was really like he has a rare cardiovascular disease, and it's something that you can live with, but it was more the trauma of the surgeries. He's had like 34 surgeries in my lifetime.
Oh my.
Yeah, he has like a mechanical heart valve. He's had a lot of stomach surgeries, and like it's the recovery and just the trauma really, and the drugs that they give you after the fact that kind of spiral.
I'm watching Dope Sick right now, the amazing like opioid like series on Hulu right now, and it's just shocking to see all these people just fall victim to opioids.
I've caught a little bit of that show, and they do a really good job of representing it, because a lot of the people who get involved with it are, they go in with legitimate ailments and injuries, and they come out, drug addicts, or at least they're treated as such. So.
Yeah, totally. So your dad used cannabis.
He was a big user in the 60s and the 70s, and
was
all about it. He was very excited. He almost didn't believe that it was like a legal thing.
Oh my gosh. I love those people.
I know. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, look, it says cookie dough. And he's like, And so he was very excited about it. And it was like a really profound experience for me. And I had a lot of these experiences in the early days, and it's kind of something like why I made the decision I made. Of course, my parents weren't very keen on me working in the industry. Federal raids were a daily reality back then. And like a lot of people were going to jail, and it wasn't like it is now. And so
can you explain that a little bit more? Like, how can there be federal raids when you're in a legal state, like trying to operate legally?
And do you have any experience with any raids?
I don't, thank goodness. There's like security reasons and stuff too. There was a lot more robberies back before it was unregulated like it is today. I mean, it's kind of like the gray market, they call it, where it's like there's these rules that allow people to grow and sell and stuff, but there's not a lot of framework around it that provides like security for anything. Whereas like the rules that we operate by today, I think the latest set of med rules that came out were like 380 pages long, and they're very robust. And it's consumer safety, like all the testing and the packaging and labeling, and then, operational safety and all that stuff. So
wait, do you personally have to read all of
Oh yeah, I know them.
Oh my gosh. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna read, and then just skim. Let's highlight the main points.
I know the main ones. There's some that there's some that don't pertain to me, like lab rules and stuff like that. But it was definitely a thing back then. There's no like talk, like people talk about like the Eric Holder memo. Like if you remember, he was the Attorney General under Obama's, I think, second administration. He was saying, so long as you're in unambiguous compliance with state law, we're not going to mess with you, in so many words. And so a lot of like the banks and like even the DEA lost some funding over it, and they kind of backed down a little bit. There was none of those like mainstream discussions.
Okay.
Back then, it was still it was very taboo. Think about where you were in 2009 and 10. My dad, it was a profound experience, because he was the things that we were having trouble with were eating and sleeping, which are like critical healing functions, you know, and that happens to be the case with a lot of people who are struggling with many conditions across the spectrum, just eating and sleeping. And he was eating 2 meals a day, sleeping like 4 to 6 hours at a time after using cannabis. And we had edibles at the time. They weren't tested, which was kind of funny, because it was just like,
you get what you get. We don't know.
We go. There was no labs. We were like, we put a gram of butter in this. Like, we don't know.
It's like, who made the butter?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So were you growing? Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew, at one point I had my parents' entire basement turned into a grow, and then they had
How many plants?
Maybe like 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Inside.
And where were you getting your genetics at that point?
Other growers, like caregivers, we call them. Like I get clones from.
So it was very underground.
Totally,
like
yeah.
Super,
and the dispensary that we operated, we had clones there.
And now time for a quick commercial break. Hemper is an online accessory company. They have papers, glass, lighters, really cool stuff. But my favorite thing about Hemper is that they have this monthly subscription box. It's a really good deal. It comes to your door discreetly every month, so you don't have to be running out for papers late at night if you're just trying to roll up a joint to fall asleep and you're out of papers or tips. And they're themed, which is really fun. So you can check it out at hemper.co.
Hemper.co.
You left to do consulting all around the U.S. and like the world.
Yeah, I say that, but it's like North America, I should say, like Canada, some South American work, mostly the U.S., Puerto Rico.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And what did you not like about consulting?
So I did, originally it was like application work. So when the first couple rounds of merit-based licenses. So this is not the West Coast states that we were talking about before where they had this like caregiver market that the state just like kind of flipped into this regulated market. Mm-hmm. This is like prohibition states that were like, okay, we're going to give you licenses and like we're going to have this application process. And sometimes it was based on like the populations of patients that had these certain conditions, like Missouri, I think is where you're from, right?
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of drama around like how it comes to be, but like essentially, I think, and this is the case in Missouri too, is they did an analysis of how many people in the state had these conditions, and then based on that number is how many grower licenses they're going to issue or how many dispensary, where they're like, tell us how you're going to operate your business, how you're going to grow, what your products are, and it's, ends up being these, in some cases, thousands of page applications that we submit to the state, and then they grade them. They usually have like a third-party company that they've hired to grade them, and then they issue the licenses. And
they're literally like, you get an A-, B+.
They grade you.
C.
Yes, wow. It's like a number basis where like the max is like 200 points, and you might get 10 points for the security section and all these things.
And whoever has the highest points gets the license.
Usually. So that's what I did. Is people hired me, and I worked at a company, Denver Relief Consulting. Denver Relief, they used to have a dispensary. Ian Sieve and Kayvon Kalatvari and Nick Heiss were the owners there. Ian Sieve is now the
Wait,
cannabis
I know
czar.
Ian Sieve, yeah.
Yep, so he used to be my boss at the consulting firm.
No way.
Yeah.
I know him because he was friends with Ricardo when I worked at Grasslands.
Yes, yep. So, and then Kayvon is like starting his own world in Trinidad and just doing incredible things there. And so, but anyway, I worked for them doing the writing, and then we started to win applications and had clients all over that needed operational support. So designing their buildings, hiring staff, training them, designing the products. And they were very, sterile medical products at the time. We had like capsules and tinctures and like, lucky if we had flour. In some states it was different. Like Nevada, we had flour and some like cool products out of the gate. But and then it evolved into some like chief operating. I went independent in 2015.
Okay.
Stopped working for Denver Relief Consulting, went independent, and was working for a number of companies at that point. And the problem with it is that there's no control. Like, that's at the end of the day what the problem is like you could tell someone what you think and like how you think they should run their business, but in the end they're going to like do what they want to do.
True,
and then you have to like be there to clean it up anyway. And so I really hate this. I didn't like it at all. So we had a few projects that just kind of took that path, and was like, we should just do this ourselves.
Then you bought a license from someone else in Colorado to start White Label in the Republic, because you have a fully vertical operation.
Yeah. So we got, and the funny thing about it is when I worked for Jill, the name of her company was CDS, Colorado Dispensary Services, and we had like 7 locations, like I mentioned. So we were like a management company is how we kind of structured CDS. And we had this suite in Lafayette that was, Lafayette's like annexed all the operators to one block. So like all the growers are like in one block. And we had a building there. And since we had been there like 7 years before, they've chopped it into like 4 units. And there's like 4 growers in there, and we moved into one of the units in our original building, or in Jill's original building when we first came back to Colorado.
Okay.
So, and it was a 2,000 square foot unit. It was very small. We grew really quickly, and I had at one point like almost 20 staff members working in that building. So it was like pretty insane.
Do you mind me asking like how much you bought the license for? Or did you have to buy like separate licenses?
Yeah, I bought 4 at the time, or like gotten out of the consulting business, and I had a chunk of change from that. And so I bought 2 rec licenses, a manufacturing and a grow, and then medical to match a grow and a manufacturing license. And then the medical business has just kind of dwindled down after the last 5 years.
That's what I've heard. I think we were asking maybe Aaron Shaw, like if he what he thinks is gonna happen with the medical market here in Colorado, and I wanted to ask you the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, actually, in some ways, but maybe at some point we can get some higher potency limits and something on the rec side. I'm not sure if that's practical or not, but that it is pretty tragic. But yeah, it is falling apart, and the supply chain, it's just not a lucrative business right now to cultivate or to manufacture in this space. And so there's just
how come? Like, why is that?
I'm not really sure. I think it's just such a limited market that when people are looking at where they're going to prioritize like their efforts, it's just not usually there.
They're just making so much more money from rec.
Right.
And there's like no incentives for them like to do medical.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
It's not like the state is like, oh, we're going to give you these tax breaks or something if you do a medical program.
Yeah, I mean, I think the taxes are a little less, but it's not
enough to make a difference.
Yeah, we're like, oh, we're back. Yeah.
Wow, that's so sad because I feel like that's kind of that's how all these states are coming online. And then it's like, are they just going to all dwindle out? Like, because Missouri's only medical right now, but obviously everyone's trying to get rec.
Yeah.
And so then are they all just going to follow this like pattern that Colorado's kind of following,
Right.
Because I know a lot of people or markets are basing their programs off of Colorado.
Right. And I know that there's some ideas for solving it. Like in Nevada, for example, the product isn't declared like a medical or a retail product until it's at the point of sale. So all of this like red tape that you would encounter, up until the sale to a patient.
To like produce it?
Yeah, to procure the input, like the trim or the distillate or whatever, and make your product and then sell it to a medical dispensary. Like it's all the same until you sell it to a patient.
I like that. So you don't have to have two separate storefronts.
Yes.
So you were saying there's like 380 pages of regulation. How many pages do you think there should be? Like how much of that is necessary?
Oh gosh, probably more actually. We need more, unfortunately. Wow. There's just like more things like being exposed over time. Like right now it seems like the testing results are expanding pretty rapidly. Like in the last 18 months, we've had heavy metals and pesticides and water activity and a lot of different tests that were never even a thing that are now required. And so there's like with each one of those, there's like, well, how do you remediate this? And like, how do you move product that's failed for these things across it? Like there's so many, trickle down effects that you have to write rules around, unfortunately. So sadly it has to be more.
So what do you see as like the biggest hurdle for people trying to get into the industry? Because I feel like everyone is always, DMing me on Instagram and is like, I want to do what you do. And I'm just like, I don't even know how I got here. You just got to start doing it. Just start working with the plant. Like, get a job like a bud tender. Like, you were a bud tender first, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess as like a parking lot tender. Like, I'm not really sure. Like, there wasn't like a bar, Like,
it wasn't called that.
Yeah, it was like a caregiver in the very beginning. Okay. But yeah, I definitely was a bud tender.
SK was a bud tender.
Sweet.
Too. Yes, yeah. And I always said I was going to be one and then just kind of went the like advertising agency kind of route and then fell into the social media.
Yeah.
And now do consulting. So
well, there's so much room in the ancillary space too.
So much,
you know, so you don't have to be plant touching usually to be involved with it in a meaningful way.
So can you tell us, that kind of reminds me of your client, Shane West. Can you, or is it a partner, I guess, of yours then?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely consider her a partner. And I actually have known her since the consulting days. I met her when I worked at Denver Relief Consulting, and she started Women Grow.
That's right.
Yeah, and so she was doing something else. Like
they were one of the first accounts I followed, and I was like, "This is so cool! I want to be a part of this." Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
Back in like 2014 or something
exactly.
Like that.
Yep. And then edible events. She tried. You know, it was before its time. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I met her then when I got my license in 2017. She was like thinking about starting a cannabis brand. And so it was like perfect timing. We launched with the mini joints, and that product is still around today and is one of our best-selling SKUs in Colorado and I think nationwide. But she's grown that from just being in Colorado to I think, gosh, she must be in 15 states now. And then she has a huge deal in Canada. We send out, we are kind of like her co-packer in a way. So we send out all the packaging for the other markets. And we've had Spanish labels that like went to a Barcelona client once. And we have Oklahoma and Connecticut and Massachusetts.
So you're almost like her like manufacturer, like warehouse kind of people in Colorado.
Yeah, for the THC products. Yeah, so it's interesting because we have, 11 brands right now that we're manufacturing for, and each relationship is a little bit different.
Wait, stop. Go back. You have 11 brands that you guys are doing almost all of the manufacturing for and like selling.
Yes. Yeah.
That is so insane. I can't even hold on. I can't even imagine like doing one brand. Like,
I know.
Let alone how do you do it?
I don't know.
Just tell the people how you do it.
Just keep swimming. I don't know. It's luckily most of our brands are, especially now I'm feeling really good about our lineup and like what we have in the next 6 to 12 months, like ahead of us.
Yeah.
The pandemic, I think for everyone, and you could probably say this across like every occupation, like we have had a lot of lessons, and so we've lost a lot. I think we had like 4 brands dissolve over the course of the pandemic, and others have
That's
just had.
So sad.
I know, and it's for one like funding usually, but one reason or another, and so we got a lot of lessons out of the last 18 months, and so we're kind of like reformulating. Right now, it feels like.
Do you see a lot of the smaller cannabis brands being sucked up by the big corporate kind of like?
I hope not. I did,
because I saw Wana brands might be sold to Cannabis for like a crazy.
Yeah.
What was it? I don't know.
$293 million.
Yep.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. And I saw Nancy at like the nightclub in Vegas. Like I think it was in the Cosmo.
Yeah.
And I was like, congrats on your thing.
Yep. It's huge. I mean, she's still in power. She's still in control right now, and it's a really good deal. It's, it sets the bar high for all of us in the category, which is, really great.
Wow.
And they've worked so hard and developed such a like quality product and brand. It's just, it's really good to see because you see a lot of funny money in cannabis, and this is one that, I believe in. But it's also an option upon federal legalization. And so, just if you can just think back at how long it's taken us to get through banking and the fact that we're not even there yet. And it's like, it's going to be a while. But it's a great deal. And I'm really excited for her.
So is exiting like what you would eventually like to do?
I think so. It depends. We have so many things going on like right now in Colorado. So Colorado is, I would kind of like stand that on one, like alone, where it's, me, my partners, we have a very small group of investors. And then we have Oregon where we're manufacturing Wana gummies. So that's just a manufacturing license. We're not vertical in Oregon. And then in Ohio, we have a grower processor license. So everything except for the dispensary. And we just closed on a 10-acre farm in Ordway, which is like right outside of Pueblo in Colorado.
Oh, okay. I heard there's a lot of grows down in Pueblo.
Yep. So, we have a supply shortage in Colorado.
Can you explain the like grow shortage? How is this happening? Because I thought everyone, like with the stimulus checks, everyone's buying weed. Like, when everything happened, people were freaking out that dispensaries were going to close. Then they were like, it's an essential business. So like, did we all like consume too much, like that, like enough wasn't in production?
God, I wish that was the problem. That would be even better problems to have. But no, it's not shelf flower, not like a bud or like something you would go in the store and buy a whole flower, like an eighth or quarter
it's
ounce.
Just like stuff to make distillate.
It's trim, it's whole flower material. And it happened because we had a pretty severe fire season in 2020. Like we had one this year, but if you remember in 2020, it was like raining ashes for like weeks.
That was terrible.
Yeah. And so those ashes have like there's structural fires. It doesn't really happen so much around like, I don't think around like forests and stuff, but when there's like structural like cars involved and stuff, there's like a lot of metals get caught up in this fire and that comes down in the ashes. And so we had a huge portion of the trim supply from 2020 fail for heavy metals. And I was talking about earlier, there was no provision in the law for how to remediate that or if you could transfer it. Usually,
like can you just put it through a machine and remove?
Right, and the labs are like, we can't test it. We can test it in the flower, but we can't test it in the concentrate. So like it was just like this big holdup. And so the labs are and it makes sense. I don't mean this like in a bad way, but when they write the rules, like the labs are like, okay, let's get the standards and try to make this a reality, and it just takes some time.
Yeah.
And so we lost a lot of, Los Sueños was, I think, probably the biggest farm in the state at the time. And he lobbied, the owner of that company lobbied really heavily to allow for heavy metals to get through. And I think they actually ended up getting it through, but, 10 months later. And so it has more to do with the testing than in the input for crude and distillate and
okay. So it's like we had the product, but then with the new laws, it like the product didn't get through the new testing laws.
Right.
It like wasn't up to par.
It failed. Yeah.
Wow. So these laws don't make any sense. Or like
it's like they do and they don't. It's like they have good intentions, but then like when you compare them to like the organic foods market or like other stuff, like I always compare cannabis to like the alcohol industry, and it's like they're not being treated the same.
No. No, not at all. And in some ways it's like, it's kind of good, like, to answer something you said earlier when you were like, what can you do to like get in the business, or like things are moving super fast and big companies are getting involved, but like I've kind of found this like peace with it because there is such a strong culture that backs up
there is
the use of this plant,
And being at MJ BizCon, it was like I could feel it.
Yes, exactly. Like I came back with a lot of motivation from that. It was kind of the lesson from a couple panels I went to where they're like, they might have like the money and the infrastructure to like do these things overnight, but like what they don't have is like the use case or like experience or knowledge, So, I think
or
it's
just
so
like
cool.
A thorough understanding of the plant even. I did want to touch on, we met like, well, I feel like I'd met you before, maybe at an event or something, but we really met through Angela with High on Love. And so like I was there with, with her at MJ BizCon, and it's super interesting trying to like be there for her brand and look for like her connections. But then also like I have a couple other clients. So I'm like, well, I'm also like keeping that in the back of my head, but trying to like weigh out who's like reliable and like actually going to be like a good partner, and who is like blowing smoke up your ass basically is like things like people talk about a lot at MJ BizCon, and sometimes it's hard to like sift through like who are the like the like true people who are gonna like who actually care about this plant and like not just trying to make money. Were you nervous to like get into business with people in the industry when you were like getting a license and all this stuff, because you were like, oh my god, they could be great or they could be shit? Like,
I don't think so. I think we vet our clients pretty good, and usually like they're not brand new. And I hate to say it like that because I don't want to start like, I don't want people to be afraid of starting a brand or like starting a product or something like that. But they were real when they came to us. Like Angela is a perfect example.
Yes.
Jane, like these women are like walking embodiments of their brand at all times.
Yes.
And she's going to have the hemp seed business and the CBD business, and it was just like a natural fit.
Totally.
So I think maybe that's one thing is like it's obvious when someone's all in, or if it's just kind of like a side hustle.
Totally.
When you try to avoid the side hustle.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, it's so interesting. Yeah. Do you have any questions?
I was going to say, so is that part of your company's mission to work with women, or to like kind of stick with companies that you trust and that are established?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, like the women thing, maybe naturally, like I gravitate towards that. I'd like to think it's kind of coincidence. Like we work with some really wonderful women, but we also work with some really wonderful men too, and I would like to, one of the things I picked up from MJ Unpacked specifically was some like social equity brands or people, minority owned brands that are looking to get into this space, who are like real deal and like have like packaging concepts and like formulations, and like they've tried and tested a product, and it might not be well known, but it seemed like they're definitely dedicated, and I would like to get more of them on board. But yeah definitely like trying to fill a catalog of products that are don't compete with each other, but also fill all the product categories, because in cannabis we kind of have flower, concentrate, edibles, and topicals, and then there's like micro categories under each of those. And it's just getting even more filtered over time. So there's a lot of opportunity.
What do you see the future of the industry being?
I think it's going to be very similar to how it is now. Like we're going to see some consolidation over the next couple of years. And I don't think that, legalization on a federal level is going to happen at any fast speed. I think it's going to be very slow. I think I just remind everyone, like, just look at our response to COVID. Like, this is, a state's issue, right? Like, I think it's going to be up to each state to write their own policy. So interstate commerce and some of the stuff that the feds are going to have to address is probably like, I'm going to guess 5 years away.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for banking to be solved 10 years later. And I hear it every day. Like people be like, did you hear about the bank? I'm like, okay.
It's like nothing's been passed yet.
Yeah.
Like
I'm like, we talk about this every
by the
time.
House, but the Senate will probably knock it down. Like,
right. Can't pass anything. Like,
I hate to be so jaded, but it's true. I'm just like, I can't waste time on it when it's just, an idea. Yeah. Like I took a class in June at CU in the law school about, one of the focuses was like federal, like, rolling out a federal program. And one of the exercises was like all of the federal agencies that would have to get involved. And like, I can name like 5 or 6, but there's like 30, like everything, department of, and the FDA is kind of getting its feet wet a little bit with, a lot of it with CBD and hemp and how it's like regulating it as a substance or a supplement. Mm-hmm. And the FDA rules are 3 times as long as the marijuana rules. It's pretty incredible.
That gives me some hope.
So they're figuring it out, but it's taking time, and that's
especially with the Delta 8 and Delta 10 and THCO. Yes. Like, I feel like that almost kind of negatively impacts. Because people are like, wait, what is this?
Yeah.
This is new.
I definitely want to talk about that.
Yes. Like, please, what do you think? Like,
oh, God. So, and it kind of goes along with the same answer of like what I think will happen is because, there's so much work to be done with the feds to even implement something. So we're years away, and it's good because we're not ready for it.
No.
And so it does provide some cover. And honestly, like people like me, where I may have had like some early success with consulting, but like I have no generational wealth. There's no like, person behind this with money. Like I am a middle class, like at best person who is able to make it because, General Mills can't compete with me or, something like that because they're too scared of getting in the space. So I'm like kind of grateful for the cover that this,
totally,
this is provided for us. But with the minor cannabinoids, I'm of the opinion that anything that is mind impairing needs to be regulated under the marijuana side of things. Yeah. And every gram of everything that I produce is regulated, to the milligram. Yeah. And so everything's traceable. Whereas when you're making a derivative of hemp doesn't have an inventory system yet. I know that they're
really,
I don't think so. I mean, I
guess
there might be
sense.
metric in Colorado, but it's not like mandated. I don't think for tracking weight. I think it's for testing and moving it into cannabis. It's all very complicated. Like because you can receive hemp derived isolate and distillate so long as it meets all the marijuana requirements in Colorado. So like I in my cannabis business use cannabis derived THC and CBD that I grow and produce in house, but I also procure like CBG, CBN, and actually Delta 8 from hemp licensed folks in Colorado.
Got it. So that you can use that stuff in the other products.
It just has to be tested using the same lab and requirements. So like potency, residual solvents, microbials, all this.
So what do you do with the Delta 8?
So right now it's an R&D, but I'm
like, wait.
I know. What I'm looking for right now is a lab that can analyze the peak differently from Delta 8. And right now the labs that are licensed from the med that I'm aware of, I've talked to a couple of them, they can't differentiate the two. So if I wanted like 100 milligram product where it was 50 milligrams Delta 9 and 50 milligrams Delta 8, their lab result is only going to show 100 milligrams THC. Like they're not.
Interesting.
So that's my problem right now is like, I could tell you it's in there, but I kind of want the lab report.
Yeah. That's so weird. Whoa. Testing is crazy.
I know.
Well, I have some more personal questions, if that's okay.
Okay.
So I want to know how your favorite way to consume currently, but then also the first time you got high and like how and when.
Oh gosh, the first time I got high was behind the bowling alley in Lafayette.
Yes.
It was
After school?
No, church group.
Oh my gosh.
Do you guys remember youth group?
Yes, I had youth group.
Yeah. Yep. It was like Wednesday night or something.
Mine was Wednesday night as well, actually.
Yeah. It was great.
Youth group.
Except I felt like I was high for like a day and a half. And
you didn't like sleep it off?
No, I woke up the next day and I was like, I think I'm still high. And then I started to worry that it was like not gonna, I was like, should I tell my parents it's not gonna go?
You're like, I'm gonna be like this forever?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And luckily my parents are super, like they're cooler than me for sure. And they knew right away.
They knew right
away? Yeah.
There was no fooling.
Are you a residual high from yesterday?
Like, yeah.
That's awesome.
I did some really dumb stoner stuff like in those days. Like I remember once I put ice cream in the pantry. Like I ate some ice cream and I put it back in the pantry.
Yes.
And I would go in the kitchen in the morning. My mom was like, hey. And she just flings open the pantry door and there's just like ice cream down all of the shelves. And I was like,
that's so rough.
Yeah, and she was like, have fun. And she's like, and just walks out.
That's like, wait, so how old were you when you first got high?
Gosh, it sounds terrible, but I think this was 8th grade.
No, that's okay.
Grade? Yeah, it might have been 7th grade.
That's the consensus almost. Well, I was 8th grade, like 14,
yes,
15.
Yeah.
And we had some Stoned Appetit on here as well, and they were at church camp. So another church youth group situation.
Yeah, church really brings people to the...
Yeah, they were like 8th grade, 9th grade, 14, 15. Like that is the age.
Yeah, yep. And I didn't really like become a big stoner until high school.
Okay.
You know, I smoked a little bit and then I was like, nah, I don't really think so. And then maybe like my junior year of high school, I was like, I'm smoking weed every day.
Yes. Amazing. Okay. And then how do you like to consume now?
Oh, right now I am doing a lot of live resin, really like vapes. I'm a big fan of Green Dot.
Yes.
You know, just all the live resin.
I'm trying to have what's her name? Alana.
Yeah.
On the podcast because I met her at the Green Dot fall harvest thing through Aaron Shaw. Do you know Aaron?
I think so. Yep.
He's my homie. He introduced me to all the best people. I feel like.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get her on, but yeah, Green Dot is doing great stuff. I love their rosin.
Yes, me too.
And they have the best live resin. I feel like you can find too in Colorado.
Yep, we love it.
Very consistent.
Big part of the Republic's, sales, and I can see why. And
you only have like there's stuff in like West Edison,
West
right?
Edison, yeah, we are. So part of you'll have to come through at some point. We're starting to build out the lab, so that smaller building in Lafayette I was talking about, we're moving everything over to Boulder. So the CO2 will come over, and we're adding butane. So pretty soon, maybe in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we'll have.
Very cool.
A butane lab and be able to do live resin and butane products in-house. So we'll still have Green Dot and West Edison. We'll just have our own internal brand.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Will you guys ever do your own rosin brand?
Probably,
I'm all about the rosin.
Yes, I know exactly. I'm like, maybe it's just like because it's popular right now, but like truly that's what I'm about.
I want it to be like as clean as possible.
Yeah.
Because even though you take the, remnants of the solvent out, like I still feel like it, it's been touched by the solvent.
Right, yeah.
Forever tainted.
Yeah.
No, but
ice water hash is really good too. I mean, we might do some of that, but I'm really excited to get the lab back up and running in Boulder.
That's awesome.
Excited stuff coming. Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit? Because I feel like people always ask like why people choose to do like CO2 or the butane or ethanol, or like, is it all dependent upon like price and like how much it costs to produce, or like all the equipment, or like the end product? Like you say with butane, you can make live resin, and with CO2, you make distillate, right?
Yeah. Yep. So I would say it's kind of a combination of all those things. For us, it was distillate and CO2 because most of our product goes into edibles.
Okay.
Or a topical.
And you're not doing rosin edibles.
Right, and we don't have, so, and we could. I mean, rosin is technically like a heat press, right? And so there's no solvent involved, like you said, but the yields are like next to nothing. So there's a problem with that. Like if you, and I don't know exactly what it is, but just say it's like 1%. So if you put, 100 grams of flour in there and you pressed it and you got 1 gram of flour, like, or 1 gram of rosin, you have to then translate that. Maybe you make 2 carts, like 2 half-gram carts. Yes. But where distillate, you'll get, so CO2 will get like a 60 to 65% yield.
Okay.
And then we refine that through a short path distillation. And then there's other techniques for that, but you refine it down into like just THC usually. And that is from trim to distillate is somewhere like 12 to 15% on a really, like when you have good material.
Okay.
Just in weight. So you get so much more bang for your buck. And
because that's trim too. Like you're using like way more of the plant.
Right. And so when you have a gram of distillate, that's 1,000 milligrams. Right. And so that's, how many edibles, depending on your potency, usually it's 100 milligrams, right? So you have 100 milligram edibles out of that 1 gram of distillate, where with this rosin, maybe it's 72%, it just kind of depends on all of those things. But butane is making a big comeback. CO2 is just, I think it was the preferred method for a while because it was the most bang for your buck.
Okay.
The yields were the best. And it strips away all the taste, the terpenes, the plant matter.
See, I don't like that.
Right. And a full spectrum is.
Yeah, I want the full spectrum.
Yeah. But if you talk to like a chemist, right, or like someone who's like after a compound, like all of those things are so variable and it's so hard to recreate it every time. So like there is. It's interesting to see how it's going to shake out. Like Lucid Mood is a good example. They're a brand that we manufacture for.
I forgot about that guy. We always have the funniest conversations. I'm literally like, you're the weirdest and I'm the weirdest. So like together we're just like throwing people for loops. Like Angela was like just laughing so hard at like our weirdest conversation.
I love it. Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah, they're great. And they have a distillate vape where we add THC, CBG, CBN, a spectrum of terpenes, and we kind of recreate this full spectrum product, but it's the same every single time we make it. Whereas if you do a rosin press,
it's going to be a different spectrum of full spectrum.
It's going to be different every time. And like grams of wax shatter live resin, like that's in rosin is like pretty easy, but it's just when you're making 200,000 gummies, the amount of
my God.
rosin you would have to press. I'm like, no, we'll run 100 pounds in CO2. Something like it. It's just, oh my God. There's a lot of different reasons why.
200,000 gummies.
Some of the packs have 10 gummies in each. Some of them have 20 in each.
Totally.
So like
it'd be hard to measure. Yeah.
Right. And like we have so many different flavors. We have 10 SKUs in Oregon, and I know they have even more in Colorado because they have all the extra quick ones
and the peach Bellinis.
Yep, we have peach Bellini in Oregon.
I love those.
Yes, me too. I love the strawberry marg is my favorite.
Yes.
The 1-to-1 is so good.
I had the apple teeny, which was good too. I love all 1-to-1.
Yes.
Stuff like products.
Love it.
They're my favorite.
They have the new optimals, which I'm really excited about. It has the CBN and the melatonin and the night one, and then THCV, which is a really interesting play. It's like suppresses your appetite, so it's kind of like an anti-diabetic drug, or that's kind of the claim actually, or like where the research is going is it can help curb your appetite. So they're calling it Wanna Fit. The THCV.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hold on. Wait, so this is a whole new product that they're developing?
Yep. It's available. I'll save you one at the store.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll save you both one if you want
cool.
it. Yeah,
I'm
very
curious.
It'd just be interesting to try it just to see how it feels.
Yeah. Well, because it's in the Colorado market.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I have to go to Oregon. Okay.
No, I know. I hope that we get to bring the optimal line to Oregon. But the batches are very large. Happy Bites is maybe one I'm a little like, it's easier to get your head wrapped around. That's a brand that we have here in Colorado.
Right,
it's like a candy coated Skittle. One batch will make 40,000 pieces, and then we package those in units of 20.
Okay. I'm like, what's What's the math?
I know, right? So like when you're infusing all of that, it's just so much easier to have like a vat of THC distillate.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
You know, where you're like, how, instead on the rosin, you're like, what's the potency? What's in there? Like you have to redo your math every time. It's going to taste different. It tastes like plant.
Yeah.
So there's true. But the vapes, I'm like, I'm all about it. I love a green dot vape.
Yes.
And,
oh, yeah.
You know,
totally. So good.
Yeah. I think that rosin it feels like it's the new thing, but it doesn't have to be in everything. Like I like that. There's a time and a place.
Yep. Exactly. That's
and I still love like flower. Like there's nothing can beats just like a good bong hit or like a nice joint. Yeah.
Yep. I know. There's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah. It's not, I'm like, I'm about to take a dab here. But wait, I think we should wrap up. But the last question I have, if you could get high with anyone in the world, living or not living anymore, who would it be?
So I've never thought about that before.
Really?
I'm tempted to say Carl Sagan just because I know he was like a really bit, and he would be super interesting to talk to and like probably have a very nice substantial conversation with him. But I'm also a big Lady Gaga fan. I went to her show.
Yes, I love
Vegas. Thursday.
I saw she was there, and I was like, "Fuck, that would be amazing."
Like, I have to go.
You and I is one of my favorite songs. Yes, by her.
It's that's just the default answer.
Okay, nice, amazing. Okay, so Carl Sagan or Lady Gaga.
Yeah, living in my dead.
What would you be smoking or like?
Probably just a joint. You know, just like keep it. No one needs to get blown away here right now. I mean,
we're here for the company, not for the cannabis.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Be fun.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think that's all I have for first round. We have to bring you back on for another round because I feel like there's definitely stuff we missed. But yeah, great intro.
Yeah.
It was really great to have you back on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on High Minded.
Of course.
You're the best. Everyone follow White Label.
Yep. WHTLBL. No vowels. Yeah. I love White Label. Shop the Republic.
Yes. And Shop the Republic is her dispensary. And then all the brands that you work with and help make happen. So High on Love, Jane West, Wana Brands.
Lucid Mood.
Pantry, we forgot. I was going to ask you about Pantry because they're doing those awesome like vegan, gluten-free edibles.
Yes, yep. We have 2 new SKUs
like keto
in like a month.
Which is something that like they're going to get, I think edibles are going to get a lot healthier.
Yes. Yep. And Pantry's paving the way. They've got, I haven't tried the night bites yet, but the day bites are delicious. Like it's going to be a problem. But like, can we make these non-infused so that I can eat them?
Just eat them, like so pop them all day without getting high and being like, I can't do any work anymore.
I know. I'm like, I ate 20 of these because they're so good.
I love that. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much, Chelsey.
Thank you.
You are the best. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time. Thank you again for listening to High Minded with McCarter. Please leave us a 5-star review and follow us on Instagram at HighMindedPod and follow me at McCarterGetsHigh.
Thanks again to our sponsor, Hemper. Go to hemper.co, use code McCarterGetsHigh to save.
See you next time, everyone. Stay high.